I still remember the exact moment I sent the email. My heart was pounding, my hands were trembling slightly as I hovered over the send button. I knew there was no turning back once I clicked it. But I also knew I wasn't going to back down. Not after everything Ethan had done. The email contained everything, every single transaction, every payment, every dollar I had spent on the man I once loved. Rent, bills, vacations, gifts. Even the engagement ring he had secretly bought for her, using my money. I had spent the past 2 weeks gathering every piece of evidence. Bank statements, receipts, hotel bookings, credit card transactions. I even took screenshots of old text messages, lining them up perfectly against the days he had claimed to be working late or going on business trips. Turns out, those business trips weren't for work. They were romantic getaways, with her. And now she was about to find out. I exhaled slowly and clicked send. The recipient of the email was Lena Carter, the woman Ethan had been seeing behind my back for over a year. I imagined her sitting in her cozy little apartment, maybe sipping on wine, smiling at her phone as she texted Ethan. Maybe she was already planning their future, fantasizing about the day he would propose. She had no idea. Not yet. But soon she would. Soon she would open her inbox and see an email from a stranger. She would click it expecting maybe a spam message or a mistake. But then she would see the subject line. The true cost of loving Ethan, a financial breakdown. She would frown, confused, but curiosity would get the best of her. And then, boom. A breakdown of his deception. I had structured the email neatly as if it were a business proposal. First, I introduced myself. Hi Lena, you don't know me, but I know you. More importantly, I know Ethan. Then I laid out the evidence. Rent payments. I had paid for his apartment for 6 months straight while he claimed he was tight on cash. Car payments. I covered his monthly car bill while he told me his account was frozen. Weekend getaways. At least 5 trips, including luxury stays at resorts I had never even heard of. Expensive gifts. A Rolex watch, designer clothes, cologne. All charged to my card. Romantic dinners. Reservations at 5-star restaurants where I was never invited. The engagement ring. A $5,000 diamond ring that he bought for her. With my money. At the bottom of the email I attached a PDF. It was a full financial breakdown, complete with bank statements, screenshots of transactions and timestamps. Just so there was no room for doubt. Sweet revenge served cold. After sending the email I leaned back in my chair staring at the screen. The cursor blinked at me as if asking what now? Now I wait. I imagined the exact moment she would open it. The slow realization creeping over her face. The horror. The betrayal. Maybe she would feel sick to her stomach. Maybe she would cry. Maybe she would scream at Ethan the way I had wanted to. And Ethan? I imagined him sitting across from her, completely blindsided. Confused at first, then panicked as she shoved her phone in his face. Explain this, she would yell. And that's when his world would start to crumble. I smiled to myself, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Ethan had played his game thinking he would get away with it. He had used me, lied to me, and walked away without a second thought. But now he was about to pay. I used to believe that love was about giving. That if you truly cared for someone you helped them when they were struggling. You supported their dreams, stood by them during hard times and made sacrifices for the relationship to grow. That's exactly what I did for Ethan. And that's exactly how he took advantage of me. Looking back, I wonder how I didn't see the red flags earlier. How I let myself believe every excuse, every sweet lie wrapped up in his charming smile. But at the time, I was in love. And love makes you blind. I met Ethan on a rainy afternoon at a coffee shop. It was one of those cute accidental meetings, the kind you read about in romance novels. I was struggling to carry my laptop, my purse, and my umbrella all at once when I bumped into him. My coffee spilled onto my coat and I groaned in frustration. Wow, great first impression, I muttered, trying to clean myself up. Ethan chuckled, grabbing some napkins. Don't worry, I won't hold it against you. That was how it started. He was charming, with a confident smirk and just the right amount of self-deprecating humor. We started talking and before I knew it I was laughing. By the time I left the coffee shop my coat was stained, my coffee was gone, but my heart was light. I didn't realize then that I had just met the man who would drain my bank account, break my heart, and teach me the most expensive lesson of my life. The perfect boyfriend, or so I thought. At first, Ethan was amazing. He was attentive, thoughtful, always saying the right things. He sent me good morning texts, left little voice notes when he knew I was having a bad day, and planned cute dates that made me feel special. But more than anything, Ethan had dreams. He wasn't like other guys I had dated, guys who were stuck in jobs they hated just getting by. Ethan had ambition. "I'm working on my own business," he told me one night as we sat on my couch sipping wine. "But it's tough getting investors. No one takes you seriously until you're already successful." I admired that about him. I liked that he had goals, that he was working toward something. So, when he started having financial problems, I didn't think twice about helping him. It started small. A dinner here, a coffee there. Nothing major. Just little things. Then one night we went out to dinner at a nice restaurant. When the bill came, Ethan patted his pockets and sighed. "Shit," he muttered. "I left my wallet at home." I laughed and waved it off. "No big deal. I got it." And that was it. That was the moment it all began. After that, the requests became more frequent, and more expensive. "Hey babe, my car payment is due and my bank messed up my deposit. Can you cover it? I'll pay you back next week. I just need a little help with rent this month. Business has been slow, but I'm about to close a deal. You'll get it all back, I swear. My laptop just broke and I can't afford a new one right now. If I don't replace it, I'll lose clients." Each time I told myself it was temporary. That Ethan just needed a little help until his business took off. That I was being a good girlfriend by supporting him. I never asked for the money back. And he never offered. One night, after covering his rent for the third month in a row, I made a joke about how I was basically his sugar mama. Ethan laughed. "Come on babe, you know I'll pay you back when I make it big." I smiled. "I know." But deep down, something felt off. I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself that when you love someone you help them. I didn't know then that while I was paying for his rent, his bills, his car, his everything, he was spending my money on someone else. Ethan always had excuses for why he was too busy to see me. "I have a client meeting. I'm working late. I need to focus on my business right now." I believed him. I trusted him. I had no idea that while I was waiting at home worrying about his so-called struggles, he was on romantic getaways with another woman. Trips paid for with my credit card. And by the time I finally found out, I was already thousands of dollars in debt. Looking back, the signs had always been there. The lies. The excuses. The times he forgot his wallet or needed a temporary loan for something urgent. But I had convinced myself that I was just being supportive. Until one night when everything changed. It started with a receipt. A random slip of paper that shattered my world. I was cleaning Ethan's apartment while he was at a meeting. At least that's what he had told me. It wasn't unusual for me to stop by and tidy up. After all, I was the one paying for the place half the time. I was about to throw out some trash when a small piece of paper caught my eye. A receipt. Nothing unusual, right? Just a crumpled piece of paper near the couch. But something made me pick it up. And then I saw the name on it. The Grand Emerald Resort. My stomach twisted. It was dated 2 weeks ago. The same weekend Ethan had told me he was out of town for a business seminar. And the worst part? The receipt wasn't for one person. It was for two. A luxury suite. Dinner for two. A couple spa package. I just stood there staring at it. My mind wanted to make excuses. Maybe it was for work. Maybe he had met a client there. Maybe. No. This wasn't work. This was a vacation. And I hadn't been the one he took. I felt sick. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my old messages with Ethan. I found the ones from that weekend. "Sorry babe, this seminar is taking up all my time. Wish I could call, but it's crazy busy. Miss you. Can't wait to see you when I'm back." Lies. All lies. My hands were shaking as I went to his laptop. I had never been the type to snoop, but suddenly I didn't care about respecting his privacy. I clicked through his emails. Nothing. Then I checked his travel history and my blood turned to ice. He had taken 5 different trips in the last 8 months. And I hadn't been on a single one. But my credit card had. I opened my banking app and started checking old statements. The more I scrolled, the more I wanted to scream. Luxury hotel stays? Paid with my card. Romantic dinners at expensive restaurants? Charged to my account. Spa treatments, jewelry, shopping sprees? All under my name. I felt like I was going to throw up. Then I saw something that nearly made me pass out. A $5,000 transaction at a jewelry store. A ring. An engagement ring. I sat there, my heart pounding in my ears. Was he planning to propose to me? Was that what this was about? But if that were true, why would he buy it in secret? Then I noticed something even worse. The date. He had bought it a week before our anniversary. And yet I never got a proposal. Which meant it wasn't for me. Who was she? I had no idea who she was yet, but I knew she existed. And I was going to find her. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. But there was no calming down from something like this. My boyfriend, the man I had loved, trusted, and supported, had been using me. And not just for money. For everything. While I had been helping him with rent, groceries, bills, he had been taking another woman on vacations. Buying her jewelry. Taking her to places I had never even been invited to. I heard the front door unlock. Ethan walked in, smiling, carrying takeout like it was just a normal night. "Hey babe," he said casually, setting the food down on the counter. "Missed you." I was still sitting at his desk, his laptop open in front of me. He froze when he saw my face. "Something wrong?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. I picked up the receipt. I held it up between my fingers. And then I smiled. "Yeah, Ethan," I said, my voice calm and steady. "Something's very, very wrong." Ethan stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes darting between the receipt in my hand and the open laptop in front of me. I could see it in his face, the brief flicker of panic before he forced a smile. "Babe, what's this?" he asked, trying to sound casual. I held up the receipt, tilting my head. "Oh, you don't recognize it?" He laughed nervously. "I mean, I don't keep track of every little purchase." "Really? Because this isn't a little purchase, Ethan. It's a luxury resort. A couple's vacation. And it wasn't with me." Silence. For the first time since I met him, Ethan had nothing to say. That's when I knew. There was no misunderstanding. No innocent explanation. He was caught. And I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make him pay. Ethan sighed dramatically and ran a hand through his hair. "Okay, listen. I can explain." I crossed my arms. "Go ahead. I'd love to hear it." "It's not what you think," he said, stepping closer. "The trip wasn't romantic, okay? It was business. I was meeting with investors and I—" "Shut up, Ethan." His mouth snapped shut. I picked up my phone and held it up. "You want to see what I found on my bank statements? You want to explain how your business trip included a spa for two, a private sunset dinner, and, oh, this is my favorite, matching couples massages." His face turned pale. I wasn't done. "And while you're at it, maybe you can explain why you spent $5,000 at a jewelry store. Let me guess. Your investors needed a diamond ring to sign a contract." His eyes widened, and that's when I knew for sure. The ring wasn't for me. He had proposed to someone else. Something inside me snapped. I had wasted so much time, so much energy, so much money on this man. And what did I get in return? Lies. Deception. A drained bank account. I wasn't just going to break up with him. I was going to destroy him. And I knew exactly how to do it. I needed to know who she was. I had no doubt Ethan had told her some bullshit story. Probably that I was his crazy ex, or maybe that he was single. But she had no idea that every luxury she had enjoyed had been paid for by me. So I started digging. Ethan was careless and I had access to his laptop. It didn't take long. Her name was Madison Green. A quick search through his emails showed me everything I needed. Romantic emails. Flight confirmations. Hotel reservations. A photo of the ring. I almost laughed. She had no idea that the man she was engaged to had stolen every cent from his girlfriend to buy her that ring. I wasn't just going to tell Madison. I was going to prove it. I took screenshots of everything. Bank statements, transactions, emails, photos. Then I printed them all out. Every dollar I had spent on him. Every trip, every dinner, every expense. I printed proof that the engagement ring she was now wearing had been bought with my money. Then I did something even better. I totaled it all up. It was a staggering amount. Over $40,000. And I put it all in a neat little invoice. I had Madison's email from Ethan's laptop. I wrote a polite, professional message and attached the invoice. Subject: Your fiancé's outstanding balance. Dear Madison, congratulations on your engagement. I wanted to personally reach out because, as it turns out, I've been financially supporting Ethan for the past 2 years, without my consent. Attached, you'll find a detailed breakdown of all the expenses I covered while he was secretly dating you. This includes rent, vacations, luxury purchases, and, of course, the engagement ring you are currently wearing. Since you are now his fiancé, I assume that responsibility for this debt now falls to you. I expect full payment within the next 30 days. If you'd like to discuss repayment plans, I'd be happy to negotiate. Bess, the woman who unknowingly funded your relationship. Then for good measure I sent copies to Ethan's family, his closest friends, and his workplace. I sat back waiting. It didn't take long. The first call came from Ethan. I let it ring. Then the texts flooded in. What the hell did you do? Babe, please let's talk. You're being crazy, just take it down. I ignored them all. Then I got an email from Madison. It was just one line. Call me. Now. I smiled. Let the fun begin. The first domino had fallen. Now I just had to watch the rest collapse. Madison's email sat in my inbox, short and demanding. Call me. Now. I wasn't going to rush. I made myself a cup of coffee, took a deep breath, and waited a full 20 minutes before dialing her number. The moment she picked up, I could hear the rage in her voice. You're lying. That was the first thing she said. I sipped my coffee calm as ever. No, I'm really not. Yes, you are, she snapped. Ethan told me all about you. He said you were just a crazy ex who couldn't let go. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, sweetheart. Did you even read the email? Or did you delete it the second your cheating fiancé started crying? Silence. Then a slow exhale. I read it. Good. Then you saw the receipts, I continued. The proof. The bank statements. Another pause. Then her voice softened. How do I know you didn't fake all that? I smiled. Why don't you check his wallet? His credit cards? See how many of them are actually in his name. Or better yet, try calling the Grand Emerald Resort and asking if the reservation was under your name, or mine. She didn't answer. Because she already knew. That was the moment the dam broke. Madison's breath hitched. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. He told me he was paying for everything. Almost felt bad. Almost. Did you ever actually see him pay for anything? I asked. More silence. Then a sharp gasp. Oh yeah. He was realizing it now. The fancy dinners. The trips. The designer gifts. All funded by me. And the engagement ring? The one she probably gushed over when he got down on one knee? Yeah, I paid for that too. Madison started breathing unevenly. I need to go, she mumbled. I need to talk to him. I grinned. Oh, please do. And when you're done, let me know if you'll be covering the $40,000 debt. I ended the call before she could respond. Within 10 minutes, Ethan was calling me nonstop. I didn't answer. Then came the text. Madison just left me. Are you happy now? What the hell did you tell her? Answer me, damn it. I smirked. Ethan, you haven't even seen the worst of it. Remember how I sent copies of the invoice to Ethan's family, friends, and workplace? Yeah. That paid off. His mother was the first to respond. Mrs. Callahan was a strict, no-nonsense woman who had never liked me, but she liked being humiliated even less. Her email was short and brutal. Asterisk, I always knew my son was an idiot, but I had no idea he was also a thief. Rest assured he will not be getting another dime from this family. You have my sincerest apologies for what he did to you. If he reaches out again, let me know. I'll handle him. Damn. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then came the job loss. At first, Ethan probably thought he could ride out the storm. But then his boss called. Turns out, stealing $40,000 from your girlfriend while lying to your fiancé doesn't look great when you work in corporate finance. I got a text from an unknown number later that day. Just wanted you to know Ethan got fired. Thanks for exposing his ass. A coworker maybe? An ex-friend? Didn't matter. Ethan was jobless. Broke. And completely alone. Days later I got one last message. From Ethan. It wasn't angry. It wasn't defensive. It was pathetic. You ruined my life. I have nothing left. Please, can we talk? I stared at my screen for a long moment. Then I sent my final response. You should have thought about that before you drained my bank account. And then I blocked him. For good. Ethan lost everything. Madison dumped him. His family cut him off. His friends. Gone. His job. History. Me. I was finally free. And my bank account? On the road to recovery without a parasite sucking it dry. Game. Set. Match. Ethan had lost everything. His job. His fiancée. His family's support. But I wasn't done yet. Because there was still one last lesson he needed to learn. The last thread holding him together. Ethan had been living in my apartment for nearly 2 years. And big surprise, he never paid rent. I let him stay out of kindness. Stupidity, really. I told myself he was figuring things out. Told myself we were a team. Meanwhile, he had been spending my money on vacations with another woman. But now I was done being kind. I wanted him out. So I did what I should have done a long time ago. I filed for an eviction. Serving him the papers. I didn't text him. I didn't call. I let him think he could stay, that maybe, just maybe, I'd forgive him. Then 3 days after Madison left him, he got a knock on the door. The eviction notice. I wasn't there to see his face, but I wish I had been. Because 10 minutes later my phone rang. I smiled. Then I answered. Are you serious? His voice was frantic. You're really kicking me out? I sipped my tea calm as ever. Oh, Ethan. You didn't really think you'd be staying here, did you? Babe, please, he pleaded. I have nowhere to go. Not my problem. You can't do this to me, he snapped. I paid for. I laughed. You paid for what, Ethan? The groceries? The utilities? The luxury vacations you took with Madison? With my money? Silence. He had nothing left to say. You have 30 days, I continued. After that you're trespassing. And trust me, I will call the cops. You wouldn't, he whispered. I grinned. Try me. Ethan tried everything to stall. He tried guilt-tripping. Then love-bombing. Then rage. But I was done. A week later I came home to find him packing his bags. He looked up when I walked in, defeated. You really did it, he muttered. You really threw me away like I was nothing. I tilted my head. Oh, you weren't nothing, Ethan. You were an expensive mistake. He flinched. Good. He grabbed his last suitcase, walked to the door, then paused. You're gonna regret this, he said softly. You'll miss me. I met his gaze, utterly unimpressed. You know what, Ethan? I smiled sweetly. Let me send you one last bill. His face drained of color. And then I shut the door in his face. For good. I kept tabs on him just a little. He couch-surfed for a while. No one wanted to help him after the scandal I dropped on his life. He tried getting another job in finance. But, well, turns out employers don't like hiring thieves. Eventually, he disappeared from social media. Me. I thrived. Got a raise. Built back my savings. Even took a solo vacation, the kind he used to take on my dime. And the best part? I did it without him. The moral of the story. If a man makes you pay for everything while cheating on you, make him pay for it in the end. The day Ethan walked out of my apartment for the last time, I expected to feel an overwhelming sense of closure. But the truth? Closure doesn't come in a single cinematic moment. It comes in pieces. In the quiet mornings when I wake up alone, but at peace. In the little victories, getting my savings back up, taking myself out to dinner without worrying about funding someone else's life. It comes in the absence of stress. No more checking my bank account in fear. No more pretending not to notice when he conveniently forgot his wallet. No more wondering if the man I loved was actually loyal to me. At first it was hard. Even though I knew I was better off, there was a strange, lingering emptiness. Not because I missed him, but because I missed the version of myself that trusted so easily. The version of me that hadn't been used, lied to, and financially drained by someone I thought I'd marry. But I wasn't going to let Ethan's betrayal define me. So I started rebuilding. I focused on work, earning back every dollar he stole from me. I took a vacation, this time fully for me. I went to therapy, worked through the resentment, the hurt, the exhaustion. And slowly but surely I started letting people in again. The universe has a funny way of balancing things. A few months later I ran into Madison. It was pure coincidence. We were both at a coffee shop downtown. She spotted me first, hesitated, then walked over. Hey, she said awkwardly. Hey, I replied, sipping my latte. She fidgeted with her cup, then blurted, I'm sorry. I blinked. For what? For believing him. For treating you like the crazy ex when you were just trying to warn me. I studied her, looking for insincerity. But all I saw was genuine regret. So I nodded. It's okay. You didn't know. She let out a shaky laugh. I should have. The red flags were all there. Yeah, I smirked. He's not exactly subtle. That made her laugh for real. We ended up sitting together for an hour swapping stories, laughing at all the ridiculous lies Ethan told us. By the time we finished our drinks, she looked at me and said, "You really dodged a bullet." I smiled. So did you. That was the moment I realized I had moved on. Not just from Ethan, but from the anger, the bitterness, the weight of betrayal. I wasn't the woman he drained dry anymore. I wasn't the woman waiting for karma to catch up to him. I was the woman who took karma into her own hands, and then let it go. Because I had better things ahead. And Ethan? He was exactly where he belonged. In my past. Life after Ethan wasn't just about moving on, it was about starting fresh. For the first time in years, I wasn't worrying about someone else's needs before my own. No more footing the bill for a grown man who couldn't manage his own finances. No more double-checking my credit card statements, seeing unfamiliar charges and convincing myself, oh, maybe he just forgot to tell me. No more draining myself emotionally, mentally, and financially just to keep a man who was already halfway out the door. Now everything I earned went into my own dreams. One of the first things I did was move. That apartment, the one Ethan had sponged off me for 2 years, I didn't want it anymore. There were too many bad memories attached to those walls. Too many nights of waiting up for a man who was probably on a date with someone else. So I found a new place. Smaller, cozier mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. I bought myself a brand new couch, threw out all the old blankets Ethan used to steal from my side of the bed, and got rid of every little thing that reminded me of him. It felt like shedding an old skin, like reclaiming my space, my life, my peace. Not a priority, but then, I wasn't in a rush to date again. Ethan had left me wary, exhausted, and honestly, disinterested. I wasn't about to let another man stroll into my life, flash a charming smile and drain me dry. But life has a funny way of surprising you. One night, I went out with some coworkers for drinks. It was just supposed to be a casual night out, nothing serious. And that's when I met Daniel. Something different. Daniel wasn't like Ethan. Where Ethan had been all flashy confidence and empty charm, Daniel was quiet, steady, and genuine. He didn't brag about himself. He didn't talk in circles or make empty promises. And most importantly, he never, not once, made me feel like I owed him something. It was strange, refreshing even. We started talking. Fully. No rushing. No falling headfirst into another mistake. Just getting to know each other. And for the first time in a long time I realized something. I didn't have to be afraid of love. Not all men were Ethan. Not all love stories ended in betrayal. Some people were actually worth trusting. I didn't keep tabs on Ethan, but occasionally I heard bits and pieces. Apparently after I kicked him out, he hopped from couch to couch, burning every bridge he had. He tried dating again, but shocker, women weren't exactly lining up to support a broke, unemployed cheater. Last I heard, he had moved back in with his parents, struggling to keep even a minimum wage job. Funny how life works, huh? The same man who once lived off me was now struggling to afford his own dinner. The best revenge? Living well. People always say revenge is about getting even. About making the other person suffer. But that's not true. The best revenge? Moving on. Thriving. Becoming everything they swore you couldn't be. And that's exactly what I did. I rebuilt myself from the ground up. I got my finances back in order, took that vacation Ethan always promised me, but this time I went alone. I met someone new. Someone who treated me like a partner, not an ATM. And most importantly, I learned that I was so much more than what Ethan reduced me to. So if you're reading this and you've ever been used, betrayed, or taken for granted, remember, you're not their victim. You're their lesson. And trust me, they'll never forget it. Looking back, I don't regret what happened with Ethan. Not because it didn't hurt, because it did. Not because it was easy, because it wasn't. But because it taught me. It taught me the power of boundaries, the importance of self-worth, and the danger of ignoring red flags. It taught me that love should never come at the expense of my financial stability, my mental peace, or my dignity. And most importantly, it taught me that I was stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. No more looking back. I no longer wake up wondering what Ethan is doing, who he's conning, or whether karma has finally finished with him. He's not my concern anymore. Because I'm too busy living my life. Too busy growing, thriving, and creating a future where I am in full control. And if there's one last thing I'd say to the woman I used to be, the one who cried over Ethan, who felt betrayed and broken and lost, I'd tell her this: you're going to be okay. More than okay. One day you'll wake up and realize that losing him was the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'd be right. Because I finally got my happy ending. And this time I didn't have to pay for it. It was a crisp autumn morning when I finally realized I was free. No lingering resentment. No bitterness. No anger weighing me down. Just peace. A peace I hadn't known in years. I had started a new job. One that challenged me, excited me, and paid me what I was worth. I had taken up new hobbies. Traveling, painting, hiking. Things I never had time for because I was too busy playing Ethan's personal bank and babysitter. I had built new friendships, surrounded myself with people who genuinely cared for me, not what I could provide. And love. Well, Daniel was still around. Still patient. Still kind. Still proving to me every day that love wasn't supposed to feel like an unpaid debt. It was supposed to be equal, effortless, fulfilling. If there was one thing Ethan taught me, it was this: never settle for less than you deserve. Not in love. Not in friendships. Not in life. Because the moment you start lowering your standards for someone who won't even meet you halfway, you lose yourself. And I promised myself I would never do that again. I had rebuilt my life, my confidence, my happiness, and this time it was fully mine. No strings attached. No one leeching off me. No one taking advantage of my kindness. Just me living the life I deserved. And that was the real happily ever after.